Alright, welcome back to One Piece Anime Review, episode 400, and I believe this is 4. Yep, 404. We are reviewing the newest episode series, 1138. Which is called Thank You, Dad, Bonny and Kuma's Warm Embrace. And we're also discussing the newest chapter of the manga, 1156. So, this episode finishes adapting chapter 1104, which is pages 6 through 15. Like what, 6:15? Yeah, that's along the chapter. It's like 15 pages, and this episode just covered the last 10 pages of the chapter. And you're probably thinking, like, okay, you have 10 pages here, so how the heck they stretch this out for 23 minutes? Well, what they did is they threw in stock footage. Because they knew they didn't have enough material to do the whole episode, so let's basically throw in stock footage of previous episodes. So, we begin left off last episode where Kuma had just finished punching Saint Saturn. And then, of course, he collapses, and of course, Bonny, of course, is crying, of course, and then she runs into Kuma, picks up, gives her a big hug, and basically then we show stock footage. Yeah, clearly this is reused footage from the previous episodes we just finished watching, of highlights of Kuma's life prior to events of the series. Maybe you say, hey, this is one more time we're going to show it, and then we're going to not do any more of this. So, and the fact that she remembers all the letters, the fact that she never actually physically saw them, you only want to know what those said because there is memories. Yep, and then of course, Vegapunk, Sanji, Frankie, and Atlas get a move. Now there's a mention of Luffy in the episode where he has disappeared. As for where he is, he's not in the episode. Those of you asking, where's Luffy? Did they cut him out of the episode? Nope. Wasn't the chapter. He's probably running around preparing to go Gear 5. Probably. And then, of course, basically, like, Ever goes up to Kuma. Like, basically, you have Sanji going to grab Bonny, and, of course, Atlas is going to grab, well, Kuma. And then, of course, Saint Saturn comes out of the big rubble that he was in. He was covered by about 20 buildings. And we show, oh yeah, he did take some damage. One of his legs has been cut off, his arm, one of his horns. And then he just magically grows him back, like he can grow him back somehow. Yeah, the reason why that he can do this is because of his authority as one of the elders of the world. Yep, that's simply the reason for this. And then, of course, basically, then Atlas picks up Kuma. Bonny is taken by Sanji. And Bonny, of course, goes back from her child form back to her adult form that she's been in. And they get away. Of course, Vegapunk stays behind to deal with Saint Saturn. Saint Saturn obviously asks, basically, what's going on. I thought you put a self-destruct device in him. I thought you did. And, of course, basically, what they actually put inside of him was actually a shut-down device to shut him down. Not to blow him up, but to shut him down. And the only reason all this happened was because of love. So, of course, basically, Saint Saturn thinks this is a poor human emotion. So he proceeds to activate a freaking Buster Call. Yep. First time in the main continuity that this has been called since Enies Lobby. That was the last time officially that Buster Call has ever been called the whole series. In terms of the anime, the last time was kind of called was actually in One Piece Stampede. The movie. Yep. There was a Buster Call called the movie, and then it was cancelled immediately. And they called the Buster Call to take down one freaking pirate. One Douglas Bullet. Here they want to destroy the whole freaking island. And all because Vegapunk dare research the history of the planet. So, like, Nope, we're destroying your facility despite the fact basically it could be very useful to them. So basically, they prepared the fire on the facility. Ending the episode. Yeah. Well, here's kind of the thing with Buster Calls, per se. Do you know how many times overall in the canon continuity a Buster Call has been called? Officially, this has been done with this one. This will be the third time this happened. The first time chronologically this happened was at Oda Island, Nico Robin's hometown. The second time was in his lobby, and now it's here. Third time in the show. Though yes, it was called in the movie as well, but it's not something that it's called very much per se. Yeah. Usually there's a golden snail and they push it. But the thing is, the first two times is because they pressed the snail. This time is because it was ordered by one of the elders. Yeah, the first two times it was suggested by an admiral. First, it was Sengoku, the first time with Oda Island, which he's since retired. Second time was Aokiji, who has since left the Navy, and now one of the captains of the Black Bear Pirates. But he wasn't actually there for Eddie's lobby. Not really, no. Yeah, so basically we're beginning this again. It is interesting though the fact that this actually okay, so there's actually two other times. Okay, it looks like it was one other time. Yeah, just one. So, now we're going to move on to the next chapter of the manga. So, cover image is basically featuring Luffy, Roger, Sanji. Looks like Garb. He's the left hand of Roger. Silver King Rayleigh, Zoro, and I think, yeah, that's Nami. Yep. This is called Idols. Yep, that's the name of the chapter. And of course, basically, we're in flashback territory. Of course. Yeah, that's really what some of these arcs tend to go as long as they do. Flashbacks. Yeah, I'd say probably post-time skip, this is much more popular to do. To extend the length of this arcs, yes. I mean, this is the primary reason why for the longest time, Dressrosa was the longest. Like Punk Hazard, I think it had. I don't remember if it actually had a flashback. I think of during Punk Hazard. Dressrosa clearly did, and that's the reason it was so long because Every single major character in that arc had a freaking flashback. Zoe Island had like one or two. Whole Cake, purely because there was a lot of stuff going on and there was some flashbacks. Wano, oh boy. Wano, basically because it was so popular, the fact this arc had built up for years. And, well, you're thinking, what about the Reverie, for example? The Reverie arc. That arc particularly, that was built up over the course of like some small segments here and there, but the only reason why it was longer than the actual anime itself, the reason why the arc in the anime was longer than the manga was because they were adapting half the chapters and using lots of stock footage, and mostly put, I think, one episode they had a bunch of chapter stories. That was simply the reason for it. And Egghead had only one set of flashbacks. For who you... Actually, two. There were two. One was Oda Island, but that was for one episode. The only extensive one we have was for Kuma. That's it. Alright. And of course, Elbaf having a flashback. For this, not surprising. And then we just have... So, back in time when I was roaming the sea, we see a bunch of guys get beaten up and women and guys falling for a bunch of women. And these pirates happen to be the Kaiju Pirates. Yep. We see their captain, Glorosa, who looks like this. This beautiful woman is now the short old lady, who for some reason is wearing the same exact outfit that Boa Hancock is wearing. Of course, she never had a girl. Excuse me, a girl. A guy basically fall for her. So it's like, she'll be the beauty. Of course, everybody falls for her. And then we see Totoma, Empress, Amazon Empress two generations later. And we have a bunch of fan letters for Glorosa, and apparently all of it for Shanky, who lived to become Empress too, and the future wife of Silver King Rayleigh. And I'm like, dude, your wife looks good for her age, for a woman in her 60s. Yeah, everyone's like, and then we see the Go Ranger Pirates. And then we see... Today you can hand over your first mate. Yep. And I think this is supposed to be Silver King Rayleigh. Yep. But then Roger gets the crap beaten out of him by the captain of the Kaiju Pirates. And then here comes Shanky. It's like, but I belong to nobody. She will belong to Silver King Rayleigh in the future. Becomes his wife. Yep. Yep, she brings at Silver King Rayleigh, which of course basically gets nervous at because he will marry her years later. And then we have a weird skirmish between Roger and Garp. Yeah, all these two fight each other, and of course Garp using hockey. Oh yeah, and also Shiki, the past version of her, is smoking, just like she is in present day. A woman looks fantastic for a woman in her 60s. Yep. And then we apparently back at Ava's bar. Everybody's basically crying over the whole flashback story, and Loki basically is like sick of the country. Yep. And then we go to Pirate, the place that became Pirate Island years later. Everybody's all having fun. And then we see Mobster Keo, future Silver Axe. Basically Hitman show up. And we also see Rox, obviously, and we also see Captain John, the one who's basically Treasure Buggy is after. Big Mom, her future partner. So yeah, he basically was a partner. We also see Whitebeard. We see Barbell, Catfish Pirate Man, Fishman, and Kaido. Everyone's all having fun. Of course, has his pal, and then the chapter ends with the formation of the Rock Pirates. Yep, which are not like normal crew. These are like basically Lucifiated characters. Basically, the end of this chapter is just the formation of the Rock Pirates. Yeah, where basically they want to Elbaf's key taking the whole land. If you don't trust me, get lost. If you have to follow me on the fifth day of our mission, if you get the stones for it, then take it off me for a bit. I'll show you the peak of the world. A very interesting chapter. I'm gonna give the chapter roughly a 10 out of 10. It's like, yeah, this was definitely to expand some stuff. It's like, oh, this is interesting. An anime I just finished watching recently has, just this year, they apparently decided to now all dub it. A show I just finished watching not too long ago. Anime Dub Updates basically released this. Apparently, even given the worthless appraiser cuts, I'm actually strongest. Yep. They actually dubbed it. I'm like, wow. I never thought they would. Ooh, Lady Seidel's in the series. Awesome. Oh, that should be interesting to watch maybe in the future. Yeah, because the thing's finished a while now. Now we release the whole dub. Wow, awesome. But that's different talk for another time. But I love the fact that basically that got it. So with this, got up all my anime. So no new anime reviews until Wednesday. Next up is a comic corner, and then it's on to Ninja Hunter. Finally back to that, first time in like first of viewing night in 2 days. Okay, the next view. Bye.